Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this FP&A Trends webinar. Today, we are going to look at the latest trends and development in financial planning and analysis. In specific, we will look at the 2023 Global Survey results. My name is Hans Gobin. I'm the FP&A Trends ambassador, and today I'll be facilitating this meeting for you. Just so you know, we have over 450 people joining us in the meeting today from nearly 50 countries across the world, plus 3 great presenters as well. So very exciting meeting coming through to you. What have we got on the agenda today? So what we'll do is we'll look at the 2023 FP&A Trends Survey. I'll share with you some key findings. We will then look at how AI is revolutionizing the way we work. The third item on the agenda is a case study from LSEG, London Stock Exchange, transformation to drive competitive advantage. Then we'll look at how 2023 technology trends in FP&A is coming along. Finally, we'll do some conclusions and recommendation, and then we'll go to our end, which is the Q&A session, the very exciting Q&A session. So that's what we've got on our agenda for today. It's now a good time for me to introduce my panel. So panelists, if you can join us on the webcam, please, and come off mute while I introduce you one by one. Our first member today is Christine Hawk, who's Director of Corporate FP&A at Moderna. Christine is based in Basel, Switzerland, and today she will take us through how AI is revolutionizing the way we work. Christine, great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here.
Thank you very much, Christine. So our next presenter will be Premal Parekh, who's CFO, FD, and Head of Transformation and Investment and Operation at LSEG, which is London Stock Exchange. He's based in London, United Kingdom, of course, and today he will take us through his case study, how he's using transformation to drive competitive advantage. Premal, great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Hans, and pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And finally, we have Pras Chatterjee, who is Senior Director, Product Marketing, Planning and Analysis at SAP. He's based in Toronto, Canada, and today he will take us through 2023 technology trends in FP&A. Pras, always a pleasure.
Great being here, Hans.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, as just introduced, we've got 3 great panelists and 3 great exciting presentations coming. But for now, I'll ask my panelists to just switch their camera off and go on mute while I go through some housekeeping. So thank you for that. I'd like to now introduce to everyone our global sponsor today, which is SAP. And we all know SAP is one of the world's leading providers of modern FP&A solution. So thank you very much, SAP, to be partnering with us. A little bit about FP&A Trends Group. As you all know, we now are in 30 cities, 16 countries, and 4 continents. What do we do? FP&A Insight. We've got a digital community. We've got our FP&A Trend webinar. We've got our website. We have LinkedIn group. And we also have our digest. So if you're not part of this, please join. And also we do FP&A education, research and consulting. So best practice workshop, consultancy, AI, ML, FP&A community, FP&A survey and research as well. So please look us up and read. There's quite a lot of material on our website. So moving on, housekeeping items. The webinar is an hour's webinar, so please stay with us till the end. Exciting Q&A coming at the end, of course. Participation is via 2 polling questions. We have 2 polling questions for you to answer. We know what our members are doing, what our panelists are doing, but would like insight from you into what you're doing within your organizations. We also have the interactive Q&A session. You can ask your question via chat box. You can ask now any questions you may have for any presenters, or wait till after their presentation and drop us a question in the chat box. We have limited time today, so we will answer some questions today, but all the questions will be answered to you If not today, it'll be via email directly in your inbox. The presentation is available to download in handouts today. So if you want to do that, please do so. If not, you will receive the recording and the presentation after the meeting. And finally, a quick reminder that after I close the meeting, we have a survey, a feedback session. So please give us some feedback, tell us how we did, but also tell us what you would like to hear from us in future. So thank you for that. Now, let me share with you some key survey findings before we get our presenters to tell us about their case study. So very quickly, just to set the scene, we've been doing this survey for 7 years now, with over 2,000 people attending. A lot of you participants today would have participated in the survey, so thank you very, very much for your support and participation. You can see a link there to download the most recent survey, so please do so. In this particular one, we had 385 respondents from a number of countries shown there, and you could also see the participation was very, very senior, and also the sizes of the company there. So please download and have a look. Let me share with you a couple of key stats before I let us go through the proper presentation. So the key things that we have been looking over the last few years is how much of FP&A's time is being spent on doing value-added work. It has kind of plateaued around 34% of our time spent on doing value-added stuff. So that's driving action and insight generation. The rest of our time we spend in doing data related sort of tasks. So data collection, validation, and information generation. 34% is what we're currently doing, but that is 56% is what we desire. So that is plateaued to around 34%. We need to shift the dial here. A few more stats. So status of data over the years. 20% of our respondents say their data is of excellent quality. So it's 3% down, it's gone down. 33% are still struggling. Their data is of low or poor quality. 16% run scenario in less than 1 day. Again, this is down 4%, which is not good news. And only 20% are unable to run scenarios. So 20% can't play scenarios at all. So there is a big issue there in that how are we then dealing with the uncertainty that we are seeing today. Forecasting processes is next. 17% forecast in less than 2 days. Again, down 4%. 26% forecast in more than 10 days. So those forecasts are irrelevant already. 26%, that's a huge number. 40% are saying that they are satisfied with the accuracy of their forecast. What about the 60%? All that time spent on doing forecasts, yet we are not satisfied with our forecasting. So planning models, 79% base their FP&A processes solely on P&L. What about balance sheet and cash flow? They don't do any of that. Only 21% do that. So how can we really measure what's happening? When things are changing, it's beyond belief that we don't plan balance sheet, cash flow at the same time as P&L. Team performance, only 15% say they're performing well. 51% say collaboration, developing with a lot of manual work and struggling to keep up with things. So not good news there. Yet again, 52% use Excel as the dominant planning tool. So 52% are still using Excel. And we profess about technology. We should use technology, but we're not. And the final stats I've got for you as a highlight, or shall I say a low light, 34% only received investment over the past year. So only 34% of the respondents have received investment in FP&A and technology over the past year. So what are the rest doing? If you look at the stats there towards the end, 3 to 5 years, over 5 years ago, that accounts for 46% have not had any investment in the last 3 years. Amazing stats. So this is where we need to go, what we need to do in terms of turning that dial into doing more value-added stuff. I am going to leave you guys to look at the survey in much more detail. Let me now quickly introduce to you our first presenter, who is Christine Hawk, Director at Corporate FP&A for Moderna, and today she'll take us through how AI is revolutionizing the way we work. Christine, over to you.
Thank you very much, Hans, for the introduction. And hello, everyone. So before I actually go into the topic of AI that I want to talk about, let me say a few words about Moderna, because quite often I get this question, how come you work there and what is Moderna actually doing? How is it operating? So I guess you all know Moderna. I think many of you actually have us in your blood, which is also good. We were founded in 2010 as an mRNA research company, and in 2020 there was a big milestone because it was foreseeable that we would bring a COVID vaccine to the market, which is how we became famous. And this actually was a turning point for us. It was the moment when we opened the first office outside of the US in Basel, Switzerland, where I'm also located. And ever since, of course, we had very strong growth. So in 2020, we had barely any sales. 2 years later, in 2022, we had more than 19 billion sales. So it's an incredible growth if you think about it, from almost nothing to almost 20 billion. This has probably happened only a few times in history. So it's something to be extremely proud about. Now, I joined in 2021, and the first role that I had in Moderna was to set up the FP&A for outside of the US, because the Basel office is the headquarters for the international business, and I was setting up the planning and management reporting for it. Now, after about a year, I moved to corporate FP&A. And why did I move to corporate FP&A? Because I have a very strong passion and a very strong mission, which is to bring AI into FP&A at Moderna. And if we go to the next slide, actually, we can see why I think that AI drives a lot of value. So first of all, it improves the forecasting accuracy. If we look on the left-hand side, you can see the results from the survey. So 61% of respondents believe that AI and machine learning is driving a more accurate forecast. And 40% of respondents are satisfied with the accuracy of their forecast. So there's probably around 60% where we can still make them a bit happier with the accuracy of their forecast. And actually, if we look at the first question, also at my experience, AI can definitely help here. So on the right-hand side, I have written down a few notes about my own experience. So the first experience I had was with a datathon. So a datathon is similar to a hackathon that maybe some of you have heard. So you make a big event, usually over the weekend. You invite university students or young people who are just straight out of university, and you give them historic data. And then you let them forecast also historic data. So let's say, for example, now if you were to do a datathon, you give university students data from 2020 until 2022. And they should forecast the first half of 2023. And then you compare how close are they with their forecast to the actuals. And actually, our experience at my prior company was that within 3 hours, the data scientists were only 1% away from the actuals, whereas as a whole organization at the time, we took about 5 months to prepare a budget, and we were usually about 5% off. And this for me was really the turning point when I realized AI can drive so much better accuracy, because in 3 hours you're actually closer than the entire organization is in 5 months. So this is one experience that I had. And the other one is around data quality and quantity. So oftentimes I hear people say, we don't have enough data, the data that we have is not good enough. Yeah, we first want to clean up SAP, we want to change our systems. But actually, I want to encourage you all to give it a try. Because when I joined Moderna, this was a concern that everyone had. We just had a few months of sales, so everyone said, yeah, we cannot use AI in a meaningful way because we don't have enough experience, we don't have enough historic data. but it turned out that actually the AI forecast was extremely accurate also here. So I have put down this quote here, who if not us, when if not now. So I really want to encourage you all to just test it with AI. I will come to it in a few moments, how you can do it, because if you just wait for the systems to be perfect, let's be honest with ourselves, it will never happen. And AI is not just driving better forecasting accuracy, it's also actually improving the efficiency, which we see on the next slide. So if we look again at the survey, 45% of FP&A's time is spent on low value activities. Hans was already elaborating on this. And if we look at the bottom at the chart, we see that 61% of organizations that use AI and machine learning are actually highly satisfied with their forecast, and it's the highest share of all different methodologies that we have here. So if we step back a bit and we think about the current status in many organizations, I think probably most of you also have several planning cycles a year. You have many iterations, you submit data, it gets challenged, you resubmit, it gets challenged. So a budget process can easily take several months. And then on top, and this is probably also what explains the 5% versus 1%, there's a human factor to it. So usually if you're a GM in a market, you want to have a low sales target and a high OPEX target, because if your sales target is low, you have a higher chance of beating it. And if your OPEX budget is high, you have actually room for additional spend. Yeah, so you're not so much at risk of overspending. And AI actually is taking the emotions out of the decision making. So AI is doing a very unbiased forecast. Now, how does this work? Usually you do a real-time forecasting using AI. So you have real-time data feeds. So for example, from SAP, the data is automatically pushed onto a database. And then you continuously recalculate models. So for example, many of you have probably heard of Python or of R. So these are common programs that you use to forecast sales, for example, using AI. And as soon as additional data comes in, these models will recalculate your forecast. So you have all the time, every day, as new data comes in, you get a new forecast, which is something that, of course, we as humans could never do. If we do it once a month, it's already more than enough. And the nice thing about it is actually that you discuss how to reach the number versus what the number should be, because oftentimes our discussions are very much around what should the right budget number be, but actually we should talk about how can we reach the maximum sales that are possible. And I know that probably many of you think now, how can we do it? Yeah, and indeed, to build up an own army of data scientists, it takes quite a lot. Yeah, so to build all of this in-house is quite cumbersome. There are many tools today, many forecasting tools and planning tools that offer AI solutions. Personally, I don't know to what extent this is really a good idea, because you don't have someone looking at the data. You don't have someone explaining it to you. Whereas I think it's always good to have a data scientist, because many people have concerns around AI being a black box. So if you have someone who actually looks at the model, who can explain the model to you, this is usually quite helpful. Yeah, so we at Moderna are working together with a startup, and they have data scientists, and they also have an app. So the data comes into the app, we can see it, and there's also an AI forecast included there. So this is something that I could definitely recommend. And if we go to the next slide, we actually see that there's another value, because in the survey, it turned out that only 20% of respondents plan the forecast the P&L, the balance sheet, and the cash flow, and 79% continue to base their processes only on the P&L. And AI actually can connect all data. It can connect sales, OPEX, which is resource allocation essentially, cash flow, balance sheet. I also put down headcount planning, because I want to make you aware it's not only finance, you can also expand it all across. And all this data is connected. Of course, if you hire more people, your P&L, you will see the impact on the P&L. And this you can connect easily through AI. So in short, I think without large investments, actually, you can leverage AI to drive accuracy, efficiency, and value. So I really want to encourage you all to give it a try. And that's all I wanted to say for now. Thank you very much, and over to you, Hans.
Christine, thank you very much. Great presentation. And we've clearly seen how AI can help an organization that almost didn't exist in 2020 to now almost a 20 billion organization, but also see how AI is bucking the trend that we can see coming out of our FP&A Trends Survey. And for me, this quote of who, if not us, when, if not now, is a great thing. So please start that journey and take a lot of advice here that Christine has given to us, and that will help you in your journey. Let us now share with you or ask this first polling question. We've seen what Christine is doing. What are you guys doing? What are our members doing as far as AI is concerned? But we want to know, what is the main barrier to adoption of AI in your organization? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it a lack of skill sets? What about lack of leadership support? Or finally, is it that we just don't have the resources? If you can vote, please tell us, what do you think is the main barrier to adoption of AI within your own organization? Is it lack of understanding of what AI is all about? Is it lack of skill set? You know, there's data scientists, etc., that we talked about. Is it the lack of leadership support? Or finally, is it that we just don't have enough resources? I'll give it another couple of seconds, and now I'm going to close it and share the outcome with you. So Christine, 37% say lack of understanding, 20% lack of skill set, 12% lack of leadership support, and 32% say lack of resources. What do you think of this outcome, Christine?
Yeah, so I think the lack of understanding actually falls into the bucket of AI being a black box and AI being extremely complex. So this is where I think it helps to have data scientists who know this inside out. Now, lack of resources, of course, this is what I said before, to build it in-house is difficult. So I really encourage you all to find a good partner and work potentially with a startup or with other companies that offer support here. I'm happy actually to see that the leadership support is only 12%, because this is for me one of the key things. You need to have support from leadership to really bring it through. So yeah, I think no big surprises here, and actually a happy outcome that the leadership support is so mentioned.
Absolutely spot on. I think lack of understanding and lack of resources could all be dealt with in a very similar manner as to what you have used to go about using AI. So fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Let us ask our panelists to join us now, and whilst we ask them the question that Christine has for them. So in the survey shows that only 7% of respondents are leveraging predictive analytics and AI. Why do you think that is, and what is your experience, panelists? Premal, can I ask you first, please?
Yep, thank you, Hans, and thank you, Christine, for the question. I think it's similar to the polling results. You know, from our perspective and from my experience at LSEG, we make investment decisions on past experience. So when you're trying to use something new like predictive analytics or AI, you look for track record, you look to your peers, you look to competitors to then make those investment decisions. And I think as we start seeing a track record appear across those groups, we, like many businesses, I believe, will start investing in this area. But going back to Christine's point, partnership, I believe, is key, especially looking at the disruptors out in the market.
Fantastic. Thank you for that great answer. Thank you, Premal. Pras, your experience, please.
Yeah, I mean, from what I see, I think it goes back to what the polling survey did. Lack of understanding, likely, lack of understanding in that what it is, how it can help me, and really, you know, once you get through that piece, then you can really, you know, gather the benefits. And I think there's many resources. For example, as FP&A Trends, you know, we have the AI and Machine Learning Committee, where it's lots of research that really talks about how this can benefit. And the other piece of it is that I think that, you know, you know, you really don't need data scientists immediately. I think you can start small. You know, as Christine showed, you know, once you start small and start growing with either your planning company or startups, whatnot, you can expand to data scientists. But I think once you get that understanding and you start small with your current planning solution and adopt it, it helps you on your journey. But at some point, you have to start the journey. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely, and to that point there, Pras, I think what we're also seeing now is a mix of skill set in FP&A itself that know a little bit about data science and AI. So really, they're not data scientists themselves, but they're bridging that gap between the tool, the understanding, and can help the whole of finance, overcome that sort of element as well. So great answers there. Thank you very much, panelists. Thank you very much for that. Let us now move on to our next session. So our next session is by Premal. So I may ask the other panelists to turn their webcam off. So very quick reintroduction there. Our next session is by Premal, who is a CFO at LSEG, and today will talk us through his case study and how transformation is driving competitive advantage within his own company. Over to you, Premal. Premal, I think you're on mute.
Apologies for that, everyone. No, thank you, Hans, for that. My name is Premal Parekh. I work at the London Stock Exchange Group, and I support our Group Chief Operating Officer and his leadership team. I'm also recently been the London Ambassador for the FP&A Trends Group. So thank you for everyone here listening today. So at LSEG, we've been through a huge piece of transformation over the last few years, and I'll come on to that. I think the main first point here to make is let's all zoom out and take a big step back. The world of work looks very different today. We have a challenging economic environment and macro environment, from geopolitical issues to technological advances and the way we actually come to work through hybrid working. And that's made the purpose for transformation for many businesses even more important, through feedback they receive from customers and suppliers, to improving and elevating employee experience and driving revenue growth and profitability. And as you heard from some of the survey results by Hans and Christine earlier, the role of FP&A, the role of being a strategic advisor and using data to make decisions, is also evolving. We spend far too much time on low value work. We want to spend more time on high value work. The requirement for finance business partnering skills has increased exponentially in the last few years. And our respondents, only 6% have come back and said they base every decision on data, which is a concern. Especially us at LSEG, we're mainly a data and analytics business. So it's part of it's embedded in our culture already, but we also need to make sure we're educating our business partners. On the next slide, let me talk you through how LSEG has evolved. For the last 4 years, we have purchased Refinitiv, a big data and analytics business, Bloomberg's largest competitor, for $27 billion. That meant we increased from being a 5,000 employee business to 24,000 employees. So we increased by 5 times. We also increased our revenue by 3 times. And our underlying profitability is moving in that trajectory. It is lagging behind, and that's part of the reason why we're going through such a transformation phase at this point in time. We've also struck great strategic partnerships with Microsoft and Barclays and bought other businesses along the way. So on the next slide, this is where I want to explain how business transformation is really moving the dial for us and providing competitive advantage at LSEG. If we can move people away from doing low value work to high value work, we believe that will not only lift employee experience, but enhance the total ecosystem experience with customers, with suppliers, etc. We can also look at ways of improving our talent retention, talent attraction, and associated costs to that. And the other big thing we've seen is if we can transform what each individual does in the business, we can also give space for time to drive innovation and creativity, with a view that we will increase revenue and profitability in the long term. So how are we going about doing this? On the next slide, this will lay out where we have invested. We've invested in a listening team, and we've created a listening ecosystem to drive decision making. So some of the more traditional ways of listening are face-to-face listening through one-to-ones, or event-driven listening, where you join a business or you exit a business, you do a questionnaire. We also do group-wide surveys, like engaged surveys, etc. And we also do focus groups which select subgroups within our business. It could be by grade or by country or by the affiliation they have in the business. But the biggest needle mover has been ambient listening. So how do we use our digital footprints that each individual leaves on the system, whether it be within their emails, within the way they talk using Teams or Zoom, or how they interact through other devices? We're able to take that data and understand how do individuals use their time, how do groups use their time, and understand what culture drivers do we want to drive through the business to help transform each and everybody's experience at work. On the next slide, what have we heard and what have we actioned so far? So we have heard many problems, like I'm sure some of you can resonate with some of these problems. Things like barriers to execution. We're involved in too much administration work. There's finance and digital friction that's causing us not able to do work seamlessly or efficiently. We also have concerns around career development, the sense of belonging, the sense of engagement. So what have we done? We've invested in 3 specific areas. Business process transformation through increasing our capability through hiring an operational excellence team, which is looking at group-wide transformation. We've invested in technology. We're 1 year into a 4-year finance transformation program. And we've absolutely prioritized how we as a business connect, collaborate, and set out people's career journeys within the company. And that's meant we've been involved in all sorts of offshoring, onshoring, nearshoring activity, outsourcing, insourcing, looking at just simply what devices, what laptops do our staff use, and is it fit for purpose? And then in terms of career, we've invested in a career navigator tool. So in there, we ask our staff to put in what their values are, what behaviors they want to drive in the company. What do they enjoy about their role? What do they want to develop in? And that's linked to actually another platform, which then maps out potentially an individual's career within their hierarchy. Or if they want to step out of finance and work in the business, that also sets out another career trajectory. And that's been really encouraging around having conversations within different finance teams, whether it be FP&A or the treasury team or finance controllership, or talking to people in the business about what they do and how they do it. And that collaboration, that cross-functional conversation has been pivotal in improving business partnering and us as FP&A individuals. Okay, so let's talk about on the next slide, how does this impact the FP&A team as a strategic advisor? So starting with some of the trend results, we've seen a recruitment priority is still high for analytical skills at 45%. That has slightly fallen since the prior year. As I mentioned, business partnering has increased significantly. We're now at 41% of respondents saying this is a priority. It was only 16% in the prior year. We also need to improve where we do our work and how we do it strategically and adding value. We've also seen how only 29% of respondents have adopted extended planning and analysis, so driver-based forecasting. And only 6% of respondents base every decision on data. So what have we done and how is a transformation helping FP&A? Well, going back to investing in people, process and technology, I believe, and we believe at LSEG, you become a stronger, more strategic business partner and a stronger FP&A team. Through that prioritization of people, we've encouraged multi-level business partnering. We've also promoted talent retention and attraction. With the business process transformation activity, we've been able to shift low-value work and automate that, or simplify or eliminate that work. And that's allowed people to have better job satisfaction and ultimately improve the experience ecosystem and improve revenue and profitability. And lastly, investment in tech. As I mentioned, we're in a finance transformation process right now, and that is going to link into absolute driver-based extended planning and analysis. And that will allow us to be the better business partners to help encourage people improve that skill set, improve storytelling, and ensure it's evidence and data-driven based. Thank you all for listening to me today. Hans, back over to you.
Premal, thank you very much. Great presentation. I think we've seen again clearly a case of how you are utilizing the survey and making sure that the transformation process is improving all of the stats or vice versa, and telling us all the different elements that you are attacking during your transformation. A lot of people stats here as well, and a lot of around business partnering, etc. So thank you very much for that. Great to hear that. Now that we've heard from you, let us find out from our audiences as to what are they doing in terms of spend. So when did your company last spend money on upgrading their main planning and forecasting systems and processes, not specifically just technology? So when did your company last spend money on upgrading their planning? In the past 6 months, within the last year, 1 to 2 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago, over 5 years. So let us hear from you. When did you last spend money on your planning? Was it in the past 6 months, within the last year, 1 to 2 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago, over 5 years ago? I'll give it another few seconds and then we will close the vote and look at the outcome. So please vote if you haven't. Just about to close it, give you another couple of seconds, and now going to close it. So, right, so what are we seeing? 21% in the past 6 months, 10% within the last year, 20% 1 to 2 years, 29% 3 to 5 years, 20% over 5 years ago. So that's 50% over 3 years ago. Premal, if I come to you, any insight? What would your thoughts be on this?
I think it's very similar to the survey results. I think in the survey results we had 56% over 3 years, and here it's about 50% over 3 years. So very similar to that. In terms of my perspective, I think we've been through a pandemic. We have been through many issues hitting companies, and therefore investment tends to go in other places. And I think now we're at a point where we can start considering reinvesting back into finance and into FP&A specifically.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you very much for that. Great insight there. Let us hide that now and move on to the next session. But before we go to the next session, can I just please remind our audience, please, to keep sending your questions. We will answer a few of them today, and the rest we will answer via email to you directly. So please carry on sending your question to us. Can I invite the other panelists now to come and join us and look at the question that Premal has got for them? So how are you and your team supporting the growth of business partnering skills across in finance? Christine, if I come to you, what will your answer be?
Yeah, so look, I think we as FP&A want to be the go-to partner. We want to be the partner of trust for the business. And in order to do this, it's important to have a seat at the table. And we need to be basically in almost every meeting that takes place. We need to make sure that we are everywhere where there's a chance. And how do we specifically train ourselves to do so? I think one important point is to do offsites. So to not always just sit at your desk and do your work, but actually also to step back and to think together as a team, what can we do better, where can we support more, and how can we make sure we get the best support for the business?
Thank you very much. Some great tips there, very definitely. Thank you, Christine. And if we go to Pras now, Pras, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with a lot of transparency. I mean, FP&A hold the keys to the kingdom when it comes to data, financial and operational in a way. And the more you make the data transparent and easily accessible to your business constituents, and you're able to share and work with them, that really helps business partnership. And I'll talk about that a bit more, during my session as well.
Thank you. And some closing comment from you, Premal?
Yeah, I think data democratization and being better linked and connected with your business partners is absolutely key. And I think the question I always ask myself, whoever I'm talking to, it's what's in it for them and what's in it for me, and making sure there's an alignment there. And I think that's where you build trust and transparency.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your insight, panelists. We now move on to our next session, which is on technology. So to deliver that, we have, of course, Pras, who is Senior Director at SAP and will take us through technology trends for 2023. Over to you, Pras. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Hans. And thank you, everyone. So I'll take you everyone through right now through some of the technology trends in FP&A that will really shape, what will happen to this field going forward. And but before we get to that and really paving the way for that, just want to go through some of the highlights and lowlights in the recent FP&A survey. Obviously, I love the fact that business partnering is the most sought after skill. Last year, I think, as we saw, over 30% said it was analytics, but analytics on top of your finance data is effectively easy and accessible for everyone. So I'm happy to see that finance and FP&A individuals are thinking more strategic in terms of being more, of a business partner, as Premel had pointed out as well. In terms of AI and machine learning adoption, that 54% are considering that to drive that over the next year. That's a great stat as well. And the next one is somewhat controversial to me because I love the fact that 52% say that a high number of their decisions are data-based. But what I do find controversial and a bit scary is that 48% then still do not base their decisions on data, which means that they don't have good data or access data. Or as the lowlights indicate, they struggle with consolidating data. What also is a little troublesome is that, especially in this economic climate where there's such pressure on FP&A to react to black swan events and disruptions in the marketplace, only 16% are able to produce a forecast in less than a day, which means that when you're, when a scenarios come to you with regards to an upside, downside, divestiture, acquisition, you're not able to provide the immediate results right away. And we've seen the data about those investments. So let's move on. So how can a technology support successful trends? Well, it's through AI, having a clear and concise data-driven strategy, being able to deploy scenario management, and finally, tying it all up with FP&A. Let's move on. Now, as the survey showed and Hans shared as well, I just want to reiterate the fact that, again, 54% are currently not using machine learning and AI, but plan to. Yet the number that are using it has gone between 9 to 7% over the last year, which might be some sort of an anomaly. But the fact that 39% still do not plan or still do not see value in it is scary because those are organizations that are doing a disservice not only to their business constituents, but to their shareholders as well. And let's see why. With AI and machine learning, as Christine pointed out, it is easily accessible. Now, Christine did point out the fact that obviously it helps having a data scientist, but as I reiterated with her point that you don't have to start with a data scientist right away. Modern cloud-based planning and budgeting and forecasting solutions, especially if you're going to make an investment or if you've made an investment within the last year or so, have AI and machine learning built directly into the solution. Especially as we've seen with ChatGPT over the last year, modern cloud-based solutions within the next year or so, especially the best-in-class ones, are going to have generative AI built directly on top of your cloud-based solution. So basically, you can ask questions of your data set and really get answers that might not have been visible to the naked eye, and ask your data and ask effectively your system to build out reports and build out scenarios immediately. And with this, you're able to do simulations and gain insights, and on the fly with confidence intervals as well. So the black box that Christine talked about is less of a black box, but you're able to have more explainability with the data you have. And what does this do? It ends up giving you better business insights, insights that might not have been available before, but insights now that AI and machine learning can do based on historical data, current data, and future data as well. Now, there is some thought that to have AI and machine learning deployed, you need an absolute clean data set with historical data. But as Christine pointed out, it's not always the case. You can deploy AI and machine learning models on data that, and parse out outliers and anomalies. Let's move on. Now, Hans has taken us through this slide, and I want to iterate it again as well. The fact that, when it comes to driving actions and insight generation, only about 34% of organizations are spending their time doing that. The rest of the time is being spent on, traditional and archaic tasks such as information generation, data validation, and data collection. And to be honest, these are things, especially with modern data and based technologies, should be done immediately in an autonomous and automatic manner. And how do we achieve that? We achieve that through a data-driven strategy. As we'll see on the next slide, with the data-driven strategy, how do you achieve this? Well, there are modern cloud-based data warehouses or data lakes that are available for finance. Again, you don't need deep data scientists or database specialists. There are starter kits and packages that can latch onto your enterprise-wide data, through your current ERP provider or whatnot, that'll effectively look at all of your data and harness it and eliminate all the silos. And when I mean harness it, it helps bring in all of your financial data, operational data, and harmonize it in one system. And what can you do with this one system? You bring all the data together in an easily consumable manner with analytics on top of it. I talked about earlier when it came to Premal's presentation about being a better business partner. Well, how do you be a better business partner? It's about bringing data together, having analytics on top of that data that is easily consumable, sharing that information with all of your business constituents, where you can collectively deliver critical and time-sensitive information to drive better decisions. Moving on. Now, we talked about this as well. The fact that only 16% of organizations can run a scenario in less than 1 day, which is highly alarming, because that means that everyone else is doing it in over a day, and in many cases over a week. In some cases, we see companies can't even run scenarios. I see this because there are still highly, as you saw in the survey, over 50% of companies are still heavily dependent on Excel. And I know there is a strong attachment for finance to having to Excel, but there's also a balance where you can combine Excel with your modern cloud-based planning technologies. So how do we do that? Moving on to the next slide. Scenario management. With modern cloud-based planning technologies, you effectively run a scenario in just a couple of clicks. You can do simulations based on best case, worst case, outliers, divestitures, acquisitions, or whatnot. You can run them privately, share them with everyone else. Effectively, you can run scenarios where you move away from scheduled plans. Budgets no longer have to start in August and end at a certain time. Plans or forecasts don't have to be done at the start of the month. Rather, with modern cloud-based planning tools, finance can take part and effectively run scenarios in a proactive manner and combine that with AI and machine learning to drive better business decisions. Next slide, please. And how do we tie this all up? Well, it's through XP&A, Extended Planning Analysis. As Premal pointed out, and we've talked about earlier as well, the key theme for FP&A, as we saw in the stat, and the best skill is being a better business partner. Well, how are you a better business partner? You're a better business partner when, as finance, you lead the charge on planning analysis across the enterprise. How do you access this? You access this by having best-in-class planning tools for all your different departments. Obviously, it's ideal if it's on one common planning platform, but that's okay. With modern cloud-based planning and data technologies, you can have a harmonized platform where all of the different planning tools that exist can be harmonized on a single layer. And what that means is that you effectively can drive agile decisions with access to real-time data. So as finance, you can see what's happening in supply chain or sales. As HR, you can look at hiring patterns based on what supply chain is, or the demand forecast is forecasting or whatnot. Effectively, planners across the enterprise using XP&A can be responsive to any situation. And with that, thank you very much.
Pras, thank you very much. Great presentation. I'm just turning my camera on. Great presentation. Thank you for sharing with us how technology can help us buckle all of those trends we've seen and how to go about doing it as well. So fantastic. Thank you very much for that. We will now move on to our next element, which is your question to the other panelists. But before we do that, just a quick reminder, please keep sending your questions. Direct them to the presenter you want to answer those questions. We will answer some of them in the session coming shortly. The rest will be answered to you directly via email. So please keep sending them. Can I invite the other panelists to come and join us, please? And we discuss this question about what can FP&A do to improve business case for better technology investment. So what can FP&A do to improve business case for better technology investment? Christine, if I can come with you, what will your answer be to this question?
Yeah, I think it's very important to just do it, and to just implement it on a small scale in the beginning, and then management will automatically see all the benefits that it brings and all the additional value add that you can do. So I think it really goes back to implement something even on a small scale, and people will get excited quite easily.
Yeah, excited and sharing the success is I think the key thing, so people understand what happened there. So thank you very much for that. Premal, your answer, please.
Yeah, I agree with Christine in terms of minimal viable products. But if I go back one step and think about any investment generally, FP&A have a strong ability, like a lot of finance, to sell fear and sell pain to executive committee members. What I mean by that is, if we do not do something, we will be going backwards. If we do not do something, we will not remain competitive. And many businesses out there are worried about their own Kodak moments. So embracing technology to enable better decision making, better future profitability is absolutely key. I'm a strong believer of that. And it's really identifying the key benefits for the business, both from a non-financial and financial perspective.
Thank you very much for that. Pras, any closing comment from you?
No, I mean, the last one is that you don't have to boil the ocean. I mean, there's so much. I mean, I think the key thing is to make the investment, because as you can see, there's so much happening with FP&A technology, whether it's AI, machine learning, access to operational financial data with XP&A, bringing it all together. And, we're going to get into a future where we're going to have autonomous planning as well. If you're still stuck in a world of Excel, you're not helping yourself, you're not helping your business constituents, and you're not creating shareholder value, which FP&A truly can deliver.
Absolutely. And another saying comes to mind is progression over perfection. I think which Christine experience is resounding to that start somewhere. You've got to start somewhere and then share the success, and it will happen. So thank you very much for that. Panelists, let us move now to our key takeaways session. So we don't have much time, but I'll let you give us a very, very quick key takeaway from each one of you. Christine, what will your key takeaway be from this session?
Yeah, so there's a wonderful quote by Ted Roosevelt who said, "Urgent things are never important and important things are never urgent." And I think this is my takeaway from this session, that sometimes we are stuck in the day-to-day work, but we also need to take time to step back to really focus on what matters and set the path.
Great saying there. Thank you, Christine. And Premal?
I think people who are listening today, they've invested their time to listen to 3 wonderful presentations from the perspective of what's new and what's on the horizon, from AI and predictive analytics to how technology can enable this and what skills are required to help really be better rounded finance individuals, especially with an FP&A. So first of all, thank you for giving your time and listening today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Premal. Finally, Pras, your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key takeaway is that, when I look at what Premal and Christine have done, with Christine, with what, at Moderna being in such a fast growth, yet embracing technology to help them drive decisions, Premal setting up a process with business partnering and, a clear FP&A and finance framework, nothing is impossible. There is best-in-class organizations to look up to and best-in-class processes, and technology does help, finance move forward.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for those key takeaways, panelists. Let us move on to our Q&A session now. Very quickly, we are running short of time. Let us start with Christine. And Christine, we have so many questions. And the first question goes to you, which goes like this. And again, you can guess what it's all about. It's all about AI. So the question is, starting from ground zero, how would you suggest we start introducing AI within our organization? Maybe you could share your own example.
Yeah, so I think the kind of easiest piece is usually sales, because this is something that is rather tangible. You can do much more complex stuff around OPEX, resource allocation, and so on. But we said we want to have a quick win so that you can convince everyone that AI is the way to go. And I would really suggest to do sales and find a good partner, and take the sales data, forecast it, and then bring it into every sales meeting that you have. So basically say, this is our forecast, this is what AI projects, and then also retrospectively, actually you will see step by step that AI has the better forecast. And if you continuously bring this to meetings, I'm sure that nobody will be able to deny that AI actually is the way to go and to expand it further.
Fantastic, great answer there. Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you for that. Premal, going back to you, thank you for sharing your case study. Amazing transformation project there. Can you share with us the sort of time span, and also share with us what sort of cultural indifferences or differences you've had to deal with?
Yeah, I think the time span it's been evolving. So I think pre the acquisition of LSEG and Refinitiv was a carve out, Blackstone private equity backed carve out from Thomson Reuters. So that was a hard separation, and it meant that we created this brand new business that was a $20 billion business, but it needed to develop its own culture. And then as you integrate into LSEG, which is a very old business, you had an absolute blend of cultures. And then you layer on top of that scaling up and acquiring new businesses, it becomes even more complex. So with any transformation, I think you have to start with people and culture first, and getting that mindset shift into a growth mindset. And that's meant setting out a vision from the executive committee and then filtering that down like a waterfall into the business. And for some people that would work for them, for some people it hasn't. And you have to also look at aligning people's purpose, vision, and values and behaviors. And that's where finance has worked very closely with our people teams and other support functions to drive this across the company. In terms of time frame, we set out these plans every 3 to 5 years. We have a strategy that we keep revising every year. So for us, it's an evolution.
Absolutely spot on. And of course, the business is growing and will not stop there. So evolution has to be the key, and adaptability and flexibility in those plans as well. So brilliant there. Thank you very much, Premal. Our last question will, of course, go to Pras. And Pras, again, it's very much AI related, but from your perspective, for AI to regenerate a forecast, how much are current systems able to incorporate external data set rather than internal actuals? So for example, if market factors causes market size to shrink by a certain amount, etc., how are companies capturing external data within their current system? I think you can give great example there, Pras.
Fantastic question. In fact, that's the norm now. What we're seeing is with companies that are deploying best-in-class planning and analysis solutions, they're really combining their planning with their data lake or data warehouse. And effectively, in some cases, it's actually one. And you have analytics on top of that. And with these new data lakes or data warehouses, you're able to take external data like GDP growth rates, exchange rates, and marry them with your data. And these systems come with deep AI and machine learning that's easily accessible, and almost in a way you can be a citizen data scientist and run your own models by yourself. So it is very easy to do. And if there's further questions on that, please send them my way, and I'm happy to address them in a more direct and explicit manner.
Fantastic, great answer there. Of course, a lot of that is already currently linked to all the different market condition. What are the drivers, if they are, macroeconomic conditions, etc. As and when they change, it will change your system, your planning, your forecasting as well. So fantastic. Well, panelists, thank you very much for answering those questions. Unfortunately, we only have time for one question each today, but ladies and gentlemen, keep sending your question. We will answer all of them via email, those we haven't answered. So panelists, just stay on the camera. We've got a couple of closing slides before we close our meeting in the next couple of minutes. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the link to follow to get to the survey, or you can scan it here. Please go and spend some time, look at it, very, very important, but also think about next time participating and giving us your view as well. Let's not forget, we've also got the FP&A Trends Maturity Model It's an interactive tool now where you can map yourself, and the link is there, and see what other main organizations are doing in that leading stage. It's time now to say thank you. Thank you very much to SAP, our sponsor and partner, for making this possible. Thank you very much, SAP. Thank you, panelists. We had 3 great panelists, Christine, Premal, and Pras. Great insight and great answers to all of your questions. So thank you very much for making time and effort for us. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, the audience, the FP&A board members, for attending today's meeting. Hope it's been valuable to you. And last page, this is how you keep in touch with us. I hope you've enjoyed the meeting. Just a quick reminder, when I close this, there will be a feedback form. Tell us how we did, and tell us also what you'd like to hear in the future. So thank you very much. Here, ladies and gentlemen, this is where our webinar ends today. We hope to see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Have a good morning, afternoon, and evening. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.